I am doing my presentation on the Tzena Ur'enah. So first, what is the Tzena Ur'enah? The Tzena Ur'enah is a rendering in Yiddish of the Torah, the Megillot, or the 5 scrolls of the Bible, and the Haftarot. But this text is not just a mere translation. Written by Rabbi Jacob ben Isaac Rabino of Yanov, the Tzena Ur'enah includes interpretations and discussions on a selection of verses and topics. These interpretations draw from many sources, like Midrash, particularly Breshit Rabbah, the Talmud, Rashi, and other Tanakh scholars. So we can see on the slide, the photo I have here is a cover page or a title page of one of the editions of the Tzena Ur'enah. Being the most popular Yiddish book ever published, there are many editions and many printings. There are 275 printings since the beginning of the 17th century, 240 editions in Yiddish, 34 full and partial translations in 7 languages. Later in this presentation, we'll be looking at one of the English translations, and the oldest edition of which was published in 1622 in Hanau, Germany. Also, 18th century editions, so a little bit later on from its original publishing, became kind of like a laboratory for the Yiddish language, most definitely taking into account the impact of Hasidism and the Jewish Enlightenment. Where did the text get its name? This was one of the most interesting things I found doing my research. The meaning of the name Tzena Ur'enah is twofold. Many of the articles I read said that the title is derived from the beginning of a verse from Song of Songs, O maidens of Zion, go forth and gaze, or in Hebrew, Tzena Ur'enah, Banot Zion. Here, in the red box, we see Tzena Ur'enah, which in scholarship, even when I was assigned this as my topic for this presentation, it is called the Tzena Ur'enah. However, that is not the actual title or the full title of the work. The full title, or the more correct title of the book, includes what is also here in this blue box, Chamisha Chumashe Torah B'lishon Ashkenaz, the 5 books of Torah in the language of Ashkenaz, then followed by Tzena Ur'enah. So like I said, today's scholarship on the Tzena Ur'enah is centered on the fact that this text was used by women. While that is true, and I'll talk about that more in a few slides, it's important to note that the Tzena Ur'enah was not exclusively read by women, and we can really get that full picture by taking into account its full title. So, the audience. The title page of the oldest edition that was published in Hanau, Germany in 1622 states, "This work aims to enable men and women to understand the work of God in simple language." This text was created to make Torah accessible to people of both genders, since during this time, many people lacked sufficient mastery of Hebrew to understand the original text. So the Tzena Ur'enah is really a text that is made in the vernacular intentionally to be able to reach more people. So here we go, to return to this connection to women. So although the Tzena Ur'enah gained universal acceptance among the Ashkenazi Jews and was often recommended to both men and women to read by rabbis, at a certain point in which is unknown, no source was able to give me even a estimate of when this was. It shifted, and the Tzena Ur'enah became to be considered as the principal and fundamental text for women. Tzena Ur'enah was intended primarily to be read for the Sabbath and holidays, and one would read the Parshat HaShavua or the corresponding story or section given that holiday. and was read at home, either on your own or out loud with family, whatever was the minhag. So these the women's readings became an integral part of the yearly cycle, and became a customary practice in the Jewish home throughout the Ashkenazi world. So now let's get into the text. What is it like? So unlike how we might imagine the Bible or its commentaries or different editions of Chumashim, in the Tzena Ur'enah, there are no chapter or verse citations. The commentary is not divided by verse, by a comment, or a paragraph. It is just one long running paragraph that begins with the first word of the portion or whatever section and then just continues on. Here is the first page of an English translation of the Tzena Ur'enah. This actually became available digitally in 2023, so this is relatively new. And I'll read from the beginning, so that we can get a taste of what this text is really like and what themes it's trying to show to us. When God began to create heaven and the earth, Bereshit 1:1. In the beginning of the creation of heaven and earth was desolate, empty, and darkness was over the void. The Holy One's throne of glory hovered in the air over the water. Why did the Torah begin with the letter Bet? It teaches us that the world is similar to the bet that has 3 sides, and the 4th is open. So too is the world. The Holy One closed 3 sides, and on the north side, the Holy One did not make a heaven. Why? The Holy One wanted to say to the nations of the world, "Let your false gods come and let them close the 4th wall. Since you have chosen them as gods, let them see what they can do." So this is a very interesting read. I think it is combining the original text, that first line, when God began to create the heaven and the earth, and then pulling in midrash and different interpretation in what's not necessarily a narrative, but a very midrashic way of looking at the text, which is fascinating. I was not able to read so much. This, as you can see, this is a over 1,200 pages of text, but I'll be sure to add this document with submitting this. So if you want to take a look, it's very, very interesting how this text is structured. And again, this is in the English, so I'm not I don't know Yiddish, so I'd be really interested to see how this would be formatted in Yiddish or its original language. So it has a long-lasting legacy that the Tzena Ur'enah is still being studied and still evolving in today's scholarship. Like I said, this translation recently became available. For many generations, the Tzena Ur'enah played a major role in the informal education of women, children, and men by broadening their knowledge of Torah, allowing them to interact and take part of their own Jewish tradition. I think the Tzena Ur'enah is a great example of the power of the vernacular and the impact our sacred texts could have when accessible to the masses, not just an elite group or not just to men or a particular group of men. This is an example of a text that was made to be accessible and to be used by the public, so people can have their own, to have their own Jewish learning and to better themselves as Jews and as people. And sources. Thanks.